What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity. Equally excited to be interviewing multitudes of builders, projects across Web3. Today, we're going to uniquely get in depth within the Aleph Zero ecosystem, notably STC Bahrain and Aleph Zero, announcing a partnership, let's say a handful of months ago. We're going to be talking about DPIN. We're going to be talking about telecom integration of Web3 technology. Always like to start these out with a little bit of an intro and an overview. I'm going to start with Imran from STC Bahrain. Imran, if you could briefly introduce yourself and describe your role within STC Bahrain, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Anthony. Glad to be here. Okay. My name is Mohammed Imran Siddiqui, born and raised in Bahrain. I come with an experience of over 20 plus years in the telecom sector. Been pretty much on the sales side for the past, I would say, 10 odd years. I've worked within more towards the Web 2 world, I would say, more towards enterprise business, wholesale business. So I come from that background. My recent role within STC is I look after developing and implementing Web3 solutions, the Web3 world, basically. So that's something that I have been doing for the past 2 years. So yeah, that's what I do in STC today.
Awesome. And Anthony, can you maybe give just a brief introduction of yourself, describe your role within the Aleph Zero ecosystem? That'd be awesome.
Sure thing. Thank you for putting this together, and Imran, thanks for tuning in, and also hello to everyone's listening. I'm Anthony. I'm with Aleph Zero. I'm one of the co-founders. We have been working on the project since 2018. First 2.5 years were more or less bootstrapped, then we managed to scale it up. And what I'm doing primarily is essentially business development, a bit on the front end and product side, marketing. So everything that is not related to deep technical aspects of blockchain development. And at the moment, we are preparing also to launch a broader enterprise program where we're very happy to collaborate with the likes of Imran and STC. So looking forward to what the future holds.
Awesome. And Anthony, I'd love if you could just maybe provide for us like an overview of Aleph Zero's mission. I'm wrapping 18 questions into one here, so bear with me. An overview of Aleph Zero's mission, the core technology, the unique features that differentiate Aleph Zero and the ecosystem from other networks out there in the space.
Yeah. If you really want to simplify it, I would say this boils down to performance and privacy, right? So we started out with this idea of we need to solve these two aspects, but bear in mind that that was 2018, so it wasn't as I would say frequent to have a very fast chain back in those days. Performance aspect has been largely, I would say, solved by the broader industry. Some things are still not there, but it's not as much of a problem as it used to be. With regards to privacy, it still very much is. Privacy is extremely expensive to use. It's inconvenient to use. And it's not easily deployable overall. So this is currently our number one focus. And we are solving it essentially for both the DeFi space as well as the broader enterprise, or let's just say Web 2 segment of different use cases in order to enable using public chains with a sufficient degree of privacy. So that's pretty much what we are after.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I know we've talked about that before. We could probably get into the weeds with a lot of different aspects regarding kind of why programmable privacy aspects are really kind of important. Imran, I would love if you could maybe just give us an overview. I mean, it seems like we're seeing a lot of traditional, powerhouses, out there in the world starting to integrate with Web3 technology. I guess from STC Bahrain standpoint, would love if you could walk us through the vision that you guys have as far as entering Web3 or blockchain, distributed ledger in meaningful ways.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about STC Bahrain. STC Bahrain is a full-fledged service provider. Okay, it's a fully owned subsidiary of the STC Group that sits out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In a very short span, as in it started somewhere around 2010, and in a very short span, STC transformed the telecom industry and actually emerged as a leader in this space, and we continue to do so, as in with all the investments and the diversifications that STC Bahrain keeps doing. Now, the reason why we actually got into the Web3, I would say the vision is, look, there's a lot of buzz around Web3. So this is something, as a telco, we believe in diversifying. We wanted to see what is this space about. So when we actually got into the space, we want to actually educate the people on what Web3 is. Today, if you talk to someone about blockchain or Web3, they pretty much think it's all about crypto, it's all about tokens, it's about assets, and so on and so forth. So we want to change that mindset. They think, okay, it's all about trading. Should we get into it? Should we not get into it? So we are here to actually change that mindset, to actually show the potential that is behind blockchain, behind Web3. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that is being explored. So we're here to actually educate the people within this region and beyond, if possible.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I hear a lot, and Anthony, I'll kind of dive into Aleph Zero and telecoms here just in a second, but I think it's an interesting point because, like you mentioned, STC kind of being at the forefront of like innovation, and I think that comes to a testament of like having really forward-looking leadership. Is that what you kind of see within STC Bahrain? Is that there is technology that's changing the world, and it's important to kind of be at the forefront of these discussions in education. Did I rug, guys? Can you hear me still?
Yep.
Okay. Anthony, I'll ask you, as far as telecom digitization is concerned, did Aleph Zero expect that the foray into enterprise partnerships would be through telcos, or is that maybe a little bit surprising to you guys?
Yeah, initially, no. That wasn't really, at least when we were starting out, this wasn't the vertical or industry that we expected to get the most adoption or penetration in, I would say. But when you're kind of just building a initially really a startup and want to explore different verticals, then you kind of go as where your network is, I would say. And in our case, it somewhat just happened where there was this correlation of, okay, where can we think of potentially eventually deploying privacy enhanced use cases? What industry is one of the most, let's say, forward thinking, one of the most brave industries? How do you even start talking to enterprises as a relatively young organization? And that's how I would say, ended up with within the telco space. So it wasn't, I would say, it wasn't definitely something that we originally planned, at least definitely not in 2018, 2019. Back then, we've had all those use cases around health. There were some use cases within telco, but from what I recall, it was primarily, at least when we were sort of scanning the media headlines, it was all mostly about finance, obviously, healthcare, and then telco sometimes, but not that often. Yeah, but then once you actually do establish a relationship in the space, it's easier to also expand and build on top of that. You're muted, I think.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I think it's interesting too. When we think about DePIN, like I always think Internet of Things. And and why blockchain technology may be particularly suited for the telecom industry with things like DPIN. And I think about, like, everybody having a mobile phone and all the other aspects that are, surrounding that. And I also find it interesting that, like, we start to see terms kind of reformulated and stuff. But can you maybe, Anthony, just dive a little bit deeper into what you guys say by advancing DPIN with kind of the integration aspects with STC Bahrain here?
Sure. I mean, so initially the announcement and sort of the broader partnership is about STC validating the Aleph Zero network. This is the first step on the road to tightening the relationship up, I would say. With regards to the broader sort of DPIN direction and what it really means, essentially. Like, if we think of decentralized infrastructures where you have multiple operators just collaborating and kind of getting together, blockchain, at least on the high level, seems like a very solid tech to help accomplish that through verifiability, like being tamper-proof and so on and so forth. So with this regard, STC is putting a very interesting initiative called Perlink Path, and Aleph Zero is super happy to be a partner of this particular initiative. And I'm sure Imran is going to talk more about this, but this is effectively a Web3 Launchpad program. So, we live in a day and age where you actually have quite solid live use cases of collaborations between telco and blockchain use cases, like Helium, for instance. So all this presents an opportunity to build, I would say, use cases via the Perlink Path program that could be then utilized in Bahrain.
Yep. And I know we would definitely will be getting into the Perlink Path with Imran here. I mean, I guess before I get into Imran here, though, Anthony, like, what do you look at when you look at kind of the Gulf region for Aleph Zero technology? Does it stand out from other regions globally as far as the opportunity, as far as, the way that the technology can kind of inject in to the jurisdictions and region?
Sure. I mean, we're like, most of the team is based in Europe. We also have team members in the States, in Asia, and in Australia. But the I would say, like, the most experience BD wise and adoption wise we still have in the broader European region. With STC support, we're able to, I would say, more effectively expand into Middle East. And there are certain advantages that Middle East has over the broader European jurisdiction, which is first and foremost, sorry, getting a phone call. First and foremost, it moves faster, solely because of how it's structured, solely because of the size of the jurisdictions, and dedicated innovation programs, which is kind of natural, because we have European Union here, so this requires more lengthier processes to push certain things. And with Middle East, it's a year by year, we see that sort of both the founder and startup communities are growing, that local enterprises are very much open to working with startups, and it's really the upcoming initiatives of STC are a prime example of this. So I would say that opportunity is both on the enterprise side as well as the general startup scene.
Awesome. Imran, all right. So, I mean, I kind of want to get into the weeds here with you guys. Maybe talk about why STC Bahrain chose Aleph Zero for one of the first protocol partnerships through STC Bahrain. What did you see that kind of stood out within the technology? You're muted. Sorry, I did the same thing.
Exactly. There you go. Well, to be honest, we took a very strategic approach towards onboarding protocols. As in, we did not want to onboard any protocol. We wanted to bring protocols on board that actually add value to the ecosystem. So there's a lot that needs to be, as in, we wanted to look into protocols that emphasize, as in, look, to have a robust infrastructure for Web3, you need a lot of security. You need to emphasize on security, scalability, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to bring someone that actually fits this whole plan. So Aleph Zero, I think, was by far one of the protocols that we definitely, with their focus on data protection, security, I think they were the perfect choice. That was one reason, to be honest. The second reason is, look, at STC, it's not only about how we do business, it's about who we do business also. When we met Aleph Zero, they were quite impressive, to be honest. They were very thorough in what they want and where they want to reach. As in, they were very thorough with who STC is, what STC is, and the potential behind STC, and how together we can actually make a difference in the blockchain space. So that was quite impressive, to be honest. And last but not the least, I would say Anthony. Anthony was a great guy. He was very easy to talk to. We clicked instantly. So that is something that, to be honest, I'm glad that I've actually made this partnership with Anthony and Aleph Zero. And I really, really look forward to take this to a greater level.
Yeah, and I think this was maybe just over the past month that you guys announced that the mainnet validator is live. So, I mean, from a telco's perspective, Imran, if you can maybe walk us through what are the benefits for STC Bahrain for validating nodes on a network like Aleph Zero?
Look, I think validation, from a validation perspective, there's a lot where telcos, and there's a lot that can be done together. One is with blockchain protocols, and I strongly believe that telcos and blockchain protocols actually complement each other. Look, for a validation or for a strong network, you need infrastructure. Now, as STC, we have the tools, we have the expertise in physical and digital infrastructure. So that is something I strongly believe that is very important to validation. And to be honest, with all this having said, I think this is just a stepping stone. Validation is just the beginning. There's a lot of things that can be done beyond validation. I would say we can actually come up with blockchain as a service, delegation as a service, so on and so forth.
Awesome. We're going to dive into kind of the economic vision. So, we talk about Perling Path, but Imran, if you could maybe walk us through how, a Web3 launchpad would align with Bahrain's economic vision for 2030.
Look, Bahrain's economic vision is focused a lot on ICT development, on next generation technologies, bringing it to the region to foster sustainable economic growth. So that is something, as in is our Web3 Launchpad program is actually in line, because we're actually bringing protocols to Bahrain. We're actually bringing blockchain to Bahrain. So this very much is inclined towards the economic vision from that perspective. Then there's a lot of let's say investments we're doing in local talent, educations we're doing in local talent, knowledge sharing sessions, boot camps, so on and so forth, to actually show the people in this region the potential behind Web3. Having said that, in August we're going to be having a hackathon as well. So that is something that we plan to do on a regular basis as well. So it's going to be in August. It's going to be not only for coders, it's going to be for coders and for not coders. So I'd love to invite anyone who wants to be a creator, who's a builder, who wants to build on blockchain. They're more than welcome. A lot will be announced in the coming days. So yeah, that's how we actually have aligned ourselves with the whole Bahrain economic vision.
So that's kind of leading us a little bit into kind of the Perling Path aspects, developer advocacy and support, all the other aspects. Can you maybe just give us just a little bit more of like a broad overview of Perling Path and what that kind of represents? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Perling Path was designed for protocols that are rapidly growing, that are probably not as large as as the top 10 ones, but there's a lot of potential behind them. There's a lot of things that they are doing. So this is something that we designed the Perling path for them to actually basically the ones that can actually be, they have the potential to become market leaders tomorrow. It comes from Perling path in general. It comes from a rich heritage of Bahrain called Perling. As in, I'm not sure if you guys have ever done it, but the next time you guys in Bahrain, that's definitely on the list.
Awesome. I will have to 100%.
Oh, you should. Oh,
I'm
you
writing
should.
it down.
Okay, then.
Anthony, Imran mentions hackathons and some of the aspects of Perling Path. I know that I'm sure it's probably interesting to you what type of an impact this might have for like developer onboarding. I mean, one of the biggest pain points out there for a lot of ecosystems is how do we get more developers? How do we get more builders? What does something like Perling Path kind of represent to Aleph Zero for education, developer advocacy, things like that?
Yeah. Before I dive into this, I want to repay the compliment, so to speak. So, Imran, I think for anyone looking to work with enterprises, I really wish they work with people like Imran, because this is one of the major challenges where you can actually have a partner on the other side that allows to move fast and just start with something and then incrementally just figure it out along the way. So this is probably the best way to move forward, and thanks to Imran, we and the STC team, of course, we were able to do this. So the clicking is mutual, so to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and then going back to Perling Path, like the best things that you can build are the things that are used by other people and actually bring them value, right? So the space is going from, if we kind of rewind a few years, from several practical use cases and largely speculative everything, to more real world use cases, actual adoption, user bases, KPIs, revenues, and so on. If there is like what I'm hoping is gonna happen during the Perling Path program, there's going to be an exploration of what can be done in the Middle East with STC using blockchains that actually make something more efficient. And obviously, it's very difficult to say substitute or upgrade the legacy infrastructure or like the core essential services with blockchain and just implement this in 3 months. That's probably not realistic now, but laying the foundations for it and sort of working around certain challenges, animating the existing customer base, designing some digital experiences that go beyond just simply dropping NFTs, and that you have this spike in activity and then it kind of dies off. Figuring out how to build, say, use cases that first bring value to STC's customers, then, for instance, help with like boosting the revenue streams and so on. So there's a lot that can be done that does not require a ton of let's just say a ton of handling the core infra, because this is also tricky, and it requires a lot of processes, a lot of time before you're done with like POC. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. Like, for instance, there was this roaming charges settlement use case that GSMA was pursuing, but this is a multi-year process and not something that can be done relatively quickly. So I would say for the most part, we're still, both the industry and the enterprises, were still in the telco space. There are some very courageous use cases, but for the most part, it's not around essential services yet.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we've had so many interviews and discussions, and enterprise interviews and discussions, and one thing that I hear consistently is like technology that can add value and streamline traditional processes or help consumers and things like that on top of what already exists is going to be kind of the way forward. And you look at where it's like ripping and replacing infrastructure isn't necessarily the way. We thought about that for years, but we haven't really seen it. So Imran, I kind of want to get into a little bit some of the other Bahrain accelerator and digitization efforts, and if we should expect alignment with Web3 networks such as Aleph Zero. So I guess I'm mainly talking about things like Startup Bahrain, FinTech Bay, contributing to the digitization efforts, and if STC is aligning with some of these other initiatives.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, Startup Bahrain and FinTech Bay, they play a significant importance in actually enabling. Now, we as digital enablers are definitely aligned with, because this actually helps. This is a big push to new technologies coming within Bahrain, entrepreneurship, new startups, and also we with this Launchpad program is actually, I would say, complementing the economic vision. We're actually bringing, educating, enhancing the whole ecosystem of blockchain in Bahrain and in the region. So definitely, I would say yes, it's definitely an alignment, and there's a lot that's going to be there's a huge push from a government perspective as well on these perspectives. So yeah, I would say we're completely in alignment, and end of the day, we're actually bringing blockchain to Bahrain. So yeah.
And then Anthony, from your standpoint, I mean, obviously some of the other accelerator aspects, should we expect Aleph Zero potentially to get a foot in the door with some of these other initiatives, whether it's Startup Bahrain or FinTech Bay, things like that? What does the relationship with STC kind of open up for other initiatives that might exist out there in the region?
Yeah, I don't want to like speculate, but overall, whether the intent is for us to kind of increase our presence in the Middle East, yes, for sure. Like the priority is how do we solve challenges using this particular tech? Like it solves a very simple thing, right? So making on-chain data private. That's pretty much what there is to it. So now you need to find someone who's using on-chain data or would benefit from using on-chain data, and then who needs it to be private and ideally also compliant. That's why we have this entire identity framework that we're building with IDOS and a lot of other let's say upgrades or enhancements. With regards to Bahrain and the broader Middle East initiatives, yes, like I think there is an incredible benefit in getting involved with various startup communities. You know, we've been working for a few years here locally in Poland, for instance, in Krakow and in Warsaw with several communities. We have been working with Techstars for a few months, and we're going to be also working with them next year. So going in, I would say, early and being able to help builders sort of solve their challenges using the Aleph Zero tech is definitely an important thing, and this is something that you can export into any jurisdiction, really. Yeah.
I'm getting quicker at unmuting myself. I'm curious, Imran, if you can maybe, because STC bringing blockchain to Bahrain, what is the current landscape of Web3 startups in Bahrain, and why do you? I guess one of the questions is, why do you consider Bahrain becoming kind of a hotspot for the adoption of Web3 blockchain distributed ledger technology?
Well, look, today we have around 120 plus, more or less, fintech companies in Bahrain, and we've got big names like Rain, Coinmina, Binance have their presence in Bahrain. Having said that, there's a lot of push. I mentioned this earlier as well. There's a lot. Look, Bahrain adopted around regulations around crypto way earlier. So that shows a lot of interest in itself. Yeah. So there's a lot of push when it comes to smooth policies. What do you make, as in, when it comes to regulations are very clear, compliances are very clear. So this I think this really makes Bahrain a hub of choice for startups to actually expand within the MENA region.
And then Anthony, I know that we don't want to speculate, but should we expect Aleph Zero to potentially in the future establish some sort of physical presence in Bahrain?
That'd be nice.
If Imran allows us.
You're more than welcome. The more the merrier. You're more than
This is definitely on the radar. Like Aleph Zero itself is a first, it's a blockchain. Second, there's Aleph Zero Foundation, which is in Zug in Switzerland. But we do have several ideas around Middle East and Bahrain. So yeah, I'm gonna maybe stop there.
Okay. All right. Emran, you've got to give the go ahead at some point in time.
He's got my go ahead already, man.
I kind of want to dive maybe just a tiny bit deeper, Anthony, just again for, the need for privacy, security, scalability, and speed from a network like Aleph Zero into use cases within telecom, some of the pain points that might exist out there. Why do you feel like, the security, scalability, speed are critical for blockchain applications that do deal in an industry like telecom?
Yeah, I would say that security, scalability, speed would be important anywhere. Like it's always better if it's faster, safer, more scalable, or able to handle more traffic. Typically the more the merrier, especially if you don't have to sacrifice one of those qualities by pursuing another, which is also kind of rarely the case. With regards to privacy, one of the things we've seen in the past was enterprises pursuing use cases on entirely permissioned environments, and this was really cool for starters. And this has to do with primarily with data control, right? So you have data processing, and you need to, from a compliance standpoint, you just need to, okay, data is processed in this jurisdiction, it doesn't leave this jurisdiction, and this is why let's say we use a permissioned environment. That would be my that's our thesis or our assumption, or it's just enough to talk to a few few builders to get a better grasp on this. But now let's say that you move the sort of this need for privacy handling to customers, where the customer is the owner of that data, and they just share the proofs of data correctness or data validity with whatever application they are working with. And this is where ZK can come in and essentially create value. Another thing is we've recently launched our L2 EVM testnet, which first helps with the broader distribution of the network, of the technology, but also that L2 allows to build L3s on top of it, where essentially that L3 can be technically shielded. So then it kind of creates or allows for like a playground that is more or less entirely private, but still is connected to a public network. So it's not necessarily a permissioned environment. Then, like, one of the use cases that we would definitely love to pursue is pretty much a wallet, like an enterprise wallet that shields all the operations that are sort of executed by an enterprise partner, right? Because something like this does not exist. Something that fits very well to internal processes, that fits with sort of the usage patterns, and that can be then later scaled. So I would say that privacy in the context of enterprises in telecommunications really solves issues both for the customers of that enterprise as well as for the internal team. And this primarily has to do with, let's say, data control, exposing secrets, transaction privacy, data privacy. It's a pretty vast topic, I would say.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you mentioned kind of at the onset the need to maintain security. Can you maybe just tell us how Aleph Zero technology enables privacy I mean, I think you kind of described it a little bit there, but privacy enhancing transactions without compromising security, because you can't, obviously, institutions, enterprises aren't going to sacrifice security. The importance of that and kind of how the technology kind of bootstraps out those kind of privacy enhancing transactions without compromising areas that they're certainly not going to compromise on.
Sure. So the first product that we're preparing to launch is something that helps to shield your on-chain activities and on-chain transactions. So essentially, I am able to send, like, the simplest use case is I'm able to send you tokens, or you, like, whatever tokens that are shielded, in a way where the trace sort of between the origin and the destination breaks. And the benefit for me as a, let's say, a retail user is that you cannot peek into my wallet, which is just a basic UX primitive overall. Now the challenge is that, you know, it's tricky from a UX standpoint, and it's kind of expensive. So you have to solve those two things. And on top of that is also slow, the shielding process itself. So ideally, the UX that you would want to have is that you have the optionality. You can use the network in its transparent standard state, and then you can use it in a shielded, or let's say a private state. And how to move between one or the other. In an ideal scenario, you would just click a button that says shield, and then it says unshield. And once you click a button, you're shielded. Once you click it again, you're back to the transparent mode. And this is something that we are working on with Common, which is a set of privacy enhanced DeFi tools and this encompasses both the protocol side as well as the sort of the, let's say, the end user side, where you're going to have a browser extension, where you're going to have a mobile app. The ZK privacy technology needs to be optimized for both. It's not like you kind of, you just develop the ZK privacy stuff and then you implement it. It's a pretty complex R&D challenge to have this optimized on both environments, and then also ensure that it works efficiently across different devices and so on. Our team managed to do something that is a large stepping stone, namely the process of shielding. According to our latest benchmarks, we managed to reduce it to as little as 500 milliseconds. The record was, I think, 319 milliseconds on consumer grade laptops. So essentially, this is how long you would have to wait until your assets are shielded, which then presents a massive UX opportunity, because it would be essentially unnoticeable on the front end. So that is something that we've lately, developed, are very proud of, and cannot wait until it lands on the mainnet later this year.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'll have to try to see if I can load that up here to share with everybody. My favorite question, I guess, Anthony, and then I'll get into maybe some forward-looking statements and visions for the future for you guys, is, and I think you kind of allude to it, is the convergence of technology. So we think about things like AI, and I know you said ZKP, so zero knowledge proofs, multi-party computation, influencing blockchain and telecom. And I think this is interesting because if you look at like the zero knowledge stuff, I guess I'll preface it this way, Anthony, is like, it really does kind of dig into the weeds with like the way that we have meaningful digital identity, things like that, and how that people interact with their mobile phones and everything else. So how do you see this stuff kind of converging over time, Anthony, specifically in an industry vertical like telecom?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, you have the core essential use cases, massive infrastructure changes, but realistically, in 2024, we still hear the term digital transformation, and we still hear people saying that the cloud is something new to them and that they are implementing it. So we have to kind of be patient with all of this. Now, with regards to sort of convergence of different emerging technologies, I think that in the mid to long term, wherever there is value to be created, it's going to be created, but in like a reverse engineering mode. So what would be the problem that we want to solve? What's the benefit? Then what tech fits to the solutions, right? So instead of like, what can we do with AI, ZK, MPC, I would kind of start maybe asking what would be cool to have, and thus do those emerging technologies help in getting there. And then like with AI, there is definitely the need for the broader public to better understand what is happening to the data, what data is being processed, where is it being processed, are your, I don't know, ChatGPT inputs that do people read them, how is this used to train the algorithms, is it not, and so on. And on the very high level, the general public might not necessarily care until something happens, something weird, or you're being later on retargeted via ads and you don't really understand why, and so on and so forth. So this is obvious, like one of the obvious values that privacy provides. With regards to telcos, I would say that there is a vast array of use cases that can be explored, but then again, we're stepping into the somewhat speculative areas. But like preventing SIM swaps is one of them. Settling international roaming charges is a massive use case that has been sort of touched upon in the past years. But this one, for instance, requires, and Imran can definitely I probably talk more about this, but this would require working with let's say various telecommunication firms, right? So it's not something that any one telco or any one blockchain organization or blockchain project can pull off. This is literally just an industry-wide effort. You've got different aspects of still the supply chain management or IoT and device management, and those are live, or some of them are live, and then you have some of them are in pilot phases. But yeah, and then there's overall tooling for the enterprises or telecommunication companies themselves. Like for instance the wallets, so the interfaces to, let's say, on-chain use cases that are understandable for anyone regardless of their background.
Awesome. Imran, I've got a couple questions left for both you guys, and I think leading from that, Imran, I'd love if you could maybe just tell us your personal vision for the future of blockchain in the telecom industry and how STC is going to really kind of drive the industry forward.
Well, to be honest, I would say, like I said, there's a lot of research that is going on. There's a lot of use cases that are being explored. Uh, there's Anthony touched base on a couple of points where it's not as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of regulations that we have to look around. There's a lot of compliances that you have to look around. So a lot is being done around it, and a lot is actually, I would say, there's a lot that Aleph Zero and STC will be working towards. It's gonna I strongly believe that there's gonna be a significant growth in this area. So all I can just say is just hang in there. A lot is to come. At the right time, we're working towards this. As in, we're actually gonna. It's not only gonna benefit our organizations, but it's gonna contribute to the broader adoption of blockchain. To be honest, within the region and globally. So yeah, I'm excited and looking forward to this.
Same question for you, Anthony, because I think Imran leads us in nicely here. How you envision the partnership of Aleph Zero and STC Bahrain evolving over the next couple of years?
I mean, pretty much the same. Whenever we can build stuff that that works better than the legacy projects, legacy solutions, we're pursuing it as hard as we can. And this collaboration is, I would say, especially within the Perlink Path program, this is going to be particularly interesting because it's a message of opening up the region and the particular vertical to the broader builder community, whether it's technical or non-technical. So this is a very strong statement from STC Bahrain, where it has this opportunity to reach people from so many different backgrounds and skill sets that there's no way it's not beneficial in the end. So yeah, we're very much looking forward to future developments and cannot wait to share some news.
Awesome. And then Imran, the last question I have for you is, what is STC Bahrain's recommendations and learnings for other enterprises that may be looking to foray and get involved with Web3 blockchain distributed ledger technology?
Wow. Okay, this has been a ride, to be honest, for STC and for me personally. Well, to be honest, I'd say it requires a very, very strategic approach, as there's a lot of things that needs to be looked upon or touched upon before actually getting into the space. You require the right partnership, the right focus on applications. You need to invest in talent, engage with the community, actually reach out to the community, and align with economic goals, so on and so forth. Then like I said, I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of regulatory compliances around them. And then obviously having all these things, you have to look at security. I think you have to emphasize a lot on that. So this is something that you definitely need to consider. And honestly speaking, you need the right mindset. A lot of people have, still want to continue in the legacy sort of. That needs to change. As an enterprise getting into the space, you have to have the, the mindset of innovation, so on and so forth. So it's been a tough one, but it's been an enjoyable one, to be honest. To the people who actually want to enter the space, I would say we've been there, we've done that. We've like STC's journey, as we've been through this whole journey, and we understand the business today. We have fostered the right partnership. So we'd love to help. We're here. If anyone wishes to enter the space as STC, we'd love to help wherever we can. Give the guidance, give the advice possible. And on the other side, protocols that are interested also to expand in the region, we're here. As in, there's a lot yet to be done. So yeah, we're just a phone call away.
What's the best way, Imran, to reach out to STC Bahrain for those that are looking to collaborate? Is it going to the site? Is it emailing? I know you mentioned a phone call. Like, I'm assuming there's contact information somewhere. So I'm just curious how people can reach out.
in our Launchpad program, there's a form of any protocol looking to onboard themselves on our program. They just have to. There's a couple of details that need to be filled out, and then we'll reach out to them.
Okay, great. Well, I have to say I appreciate both your gentlemen's time today. I am assuming that you guys are both extremely busy, so taking almost a full hour out of your day, I know sometimes it can kind of just set back all of the amount of work that goes on a daily basis. For those of you guys that are interested in checking out Aleph Zero, you can go to Aleph Zero's website, alephzero.org. Obviously Aleph Zero on X as well. Check out STC Bahrain and their Launchpad program for those of you guys that are looking to reach out and collaborate with STC and the team. Imran, it's been a pleasure to have you today. Anthony, it's been a pleasure to have you today as well. Hang out with me for a couple of seconds here while I end this to make sure everything uploads. But awesome interview, and thank you guys so much for your time.
Pleasure's all mine, Ryan. Thank you. I must say thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony. It's been a pleasure as always.
Likewise. Thank you so much for your time, for the effort of putting this together. Thanks to everyone listening as well.
Thank you.